Hello everyone, thank you for joining us on this edition of The Inside on Equinoxe Television. I am Bablet Jonathan. In this edition of the program, we are taking you into the depth of the functioning of regional institutions put in place within the framework of the decentralization process being implemented in the Republic of Cameroon. What will the regional executives or officials do? What can they do? What is their vision? How will they do what they intend to do to enhance the development of regional communities and restore peace and normalcy for the keys of the crisis-stricken regions, including the northwest and the southwest regions of the country? We are going to try to answer these questions in this edition of the program. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest today is Professor FRU ANGWAFOR III, President of the Northwest Regional Assembly. He is a medical expert by profession, former Director General of the Yaoundé Gynecobstetric and Pediatric Hospital. And Professor, welcome to the program.
Welcome, Mr. Babila.
Right, we start with latest information concerning the coronavirus pandemic, and the latest figures published by the Ministry of Public Health indicate that Cameroon is now counting 33,749 persons tested positive for coronavirus, and 31,362 have been treated, and 523 persons have died of the coronavirus. These are some of the figures recently published by the Ministry of Public Health as far as the coronavirus pandemic is concerned. Professor, what's your reading of these figures?
They're not good at all. And what those figures hide is that the trend, because you're talking of figures that are now, but when we look at the trend over the year, remember it was March 6th, 2020 that Cameroon declared its first case. So in roughly 11 months, 3 weeks or 2 weeks, we've had 33,000 cases and 520 something deaths. But what that hides is that 61 of these deaths have occurred in the last month, which means that the current phase of the pandemic is more serious than what we had before. And the response of the community is instead the contrary. You have a situation where when the disease was less severe, people had taken up their gear, they were wearing face masks, they were washing their hands, and they were physically distancing. They only went out for activities that must be carried out. That was when the disease was less severe. Today, we seem to have a second wave that is more severe, but the response, the public response, is less than wanting. So for me, I thank you, because it is important that we bring this to the common man, common woman in the public. We need to get ourselves back to the mindset of doing what each individual can do to stop the propagation, to stop the spread of this virus. I know that communication in the social media has been quite disturbing. People have taken sides. One thing I know is the disease does not respect persons. And it is even worse in older and even those that seem to be well-to-do, because they also have a lot of other illnesses that make immunity weak. So it is important that we physically distance, wash our hands, and when we must be together, put on our face masks so that we limit the spread.
Professor, what is wrong with communication on the social media as far as coronavirus is concerned?
Well, you have many, I would call them bizarre stories. Stories talking about some kind of world conspiracy theory to do away with black people, and telling people not to be vaccinated. But I think we must know that there are a whole system of organization in the country to make sure that inputs for the public health are of quality. So why people would imagine that just for this vaccine they are going to totally phase out and kill Africans and Cameroonians, I don't know. The same people depend on those who are sending vaccines for wheat, for bread. I think everyone here eats bread. For the medications. So if they really wanted to wipe us out, they would not wait just for the vaccines. So I think that those fearmongers and people who, unfortunately, by false propaganda, innuendo, are putting the risk of especially older people with a lot of other illnesses, putting their lives at risk. So let us, as one people, do what it takes to stave off, to keep away this virus. It has been shown. And Cameroon, do you remember? Effort through the head of state was lauded. It was an exemplary country.
And talking about the management of the coronavirus, Prof, when we look at the figures, 31,362 out of 33,749 persons successfully treated of the coronavirus. That is about 95 or 93%, 93% recovery rate, and the death rate is at 1.5. What does that reflect as far as the management of the coronavirus in Cameroon is concerned?
Well, I just told you that Cameroon was cited as one of the countries that was doing a good job during the first phase. That is why, having had such success, we need to put on tighten our belts and make sure we do even better. Of course, one death is one too many. You see, sometimes statistics can be deceiving. When someone dear to you dies, even if it's the only one in a million, I bet you the pain is not less. So, yes, we can do better. Yes, we have a good program. It isn't perfect. Nothing is. But let us work together. If we work together to take the public health measures that government has taken at all levels, individual, community, when I mean community, I'm talking of villages, councils, then regions and the nation. At all these levels, we keep in mind that the success of warding off COVID depends on each individual and the collective will of our people.
What can we deduce from the that is the rate of severity rate, so to speak? The minister says that it's at 1.6%.
Well, there's a lot of scientific, I would say, theories. There are lots of them. You know, we have a younger population and therefore stronger. We are also blessed by our ecosystem. We also have a way of life which is outgoing. The temperatures seem to favor us. And then as a young population, we do not have some of the diseases older populations have that decrease immunity. So there is a whole complicity of factors that militate and favor us as far as COVID is concerned. Thank God something can favor us. But that does not mean that we should be reckless. Because I just caution you that one death is one too many. And let it happen to a close family or friend. You will see that it doesn't hurt any less.
Right. Now, about the vaccination, Cameroon seems to be pulling its legs, while other African countries are advancing in that.
Cameroon is not pulling its legs. First of all, with the billions of people on earth, the human capacity for vaccine production is very limited. You don't want me to start decrying the fact that we ourselves, we don't produce vaccines. I think national authority in this area is doing everything to see how we can procure the vaccines, secure them in a cold chain system, and then of course we have a national vaccination program that has run and been tested over the years. I would imagine that when things, all of these are ready, it will be done. There are very few African countries indeed that have started. So let's give the proper information. As I know, there were 13 countries that were first earmarked, and I think only 4 or so have actually started, and Cameroon is coming on.
All the vaccines are coming from Western nations. African medical experts like yourself
no,
unable to
they are
produce
not all
vaccines?
coming from Western nations. China has vaccines,
I'm talking
Russia
about
has
China,
vaccines.
Russia, the United States,
Yes.
so on. The African medics, African medical experts.
Well, we have to move the gear, cultural gear, isn't it? It is one thing having a lab, but you must have a whole sector, feeder skills and expertise to do a vaccine. I don't need to enter into the development breaks. So we will get there when we would have had all those social determinants for health.
Right. We're going to go to the newsstands now, and we'll take a look at what the newspapers reported this week. After the press review, we'll be talking about the regional institutions put in place in the 10 regions of the Republic of Cameroon to foster decentralization, to enhance the development of the regional communities, and of course to restore peace and normalcy in the crisis-stricken regions also. This is one of the outcomes of the major national dialogue which was called up by by the President of the Republic to find solutions to some of the problems plaguing not only the Northwest and Southwest regions, but the 10 regions of the Republic of Cameroon. But with the Northwest and the Southwest at the top of the chart because of the security crisis going on there. We'll be back in some few minutes.
The Chronicle Times, for orchestrating the killing of Libialem chiefs, the population curses Chris Anu and Field Marshal. The Garden Post says, as military raids Libialem, Field Marshal takes to his heels. His second-in-command gets arrested. The Post reports, soldiers mercilessly torture a man to near death in Dungamantum Division, Northwest region of Cameroon. The Garden Post exclaims, as Gabo massacre clocks 1 year, the military unleashes another barbaric act in Du. The Voice Weekender and the Median says, ex-separatists strike at the Bamenda Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Center. Prime Minister rushes envoy to Bamenda with cash. Another edition of the Garden Post questions whether the failed attempts to resolve the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions could be blamed on the unpopularity of Anglophone ministers. The Voice, tired of war, thirst for peace. Archbishop Andrew Nkia cries out for his people. The Garden Post reports, separatist leaders warns Amber fighters to be ready to face the International Criminal Court for war crimes. The Horizon, Anglophone crisis. French Member of Parliament warns it on the United Nations Security Council agenda. Municipal updates, development of the Northwest and Southwest regions. Japan joins international support for reconstruction. Another edition of the Horizon exclaims, COVID-19 is real. Northwest population hit by second wave. The Herald Tribune, COVID-19 gumbo, tearing Northwest regional delegates apart.
You're welcome back. Our guest, Professor FRU ANGWAFOR III, is the President of the Northwest Regional Assembly. Mr. President, the Northwest and the Southwest regions of the country different from the other 8 regions in the sense that they have a special status which is emanating from the Constitution of the Republic. When you look at this special status and you are now in charge of the implementation with other persons who will be working with you, when you look at this special status in its in all its components, do you see something? I know your answer will certainly be positive because you're in charge, but looking at it squarely from a critical point of view, what do you see coming out of that for the regions?
I can only see shine and prospects on condition that we take everyone along, on condition that each one does their job, as you are doing, informing the people about the truth. Why are we special? Very simply put, on the 31st of December 2019, the head of state said, the new Cameroon is on. And he said, for the people of the Northwest and Southwest, the special status looks at 3 particular specificities. That is cultural specificities. The first was the educational system. Our people have said this educational system was being diluted. Some people were saying when they bring their diplomas and all, they have to equate them to something. But how do you equate two different things and so on and so forth? So the head of state says, okay, if that's the case, I will give you a commissioner for education. You will deliberate on education. You will propose and manage education at the basic elementary level, where the local councils will operate, implement the operations. At the secondary and technical levels, the region. That, my friend, is specific for the Northwest. It's not the same thing in the 8 other regions. Number 2, he said, because of your common law background, and he actually went further and created a common law section in the highest court of the land, created curricula for training common law magistrates and all, and he didn't stop there. He looked at our original culture. He created our own region specific, different. Remember, in 1960, they created a House of Chiefs in West Cameroon. That house was for window dressing. I'm sorry to say that. I think 1 or 2 are still alive. I hope they don't feel slighted. But it was for window dressing. Why? Because it was consultative. And what they said or did, they took the House of Assembly or government took it or not. They would have no recourse. Today, the Regional Assembly is bicameral. Our House of Chiefs has specific attributions. They are going to look at the culture and they take decisions. They will decide on monuments. We had problems. This is to speak to our problems of identity, our natural identities. And they are expected not just to do the usual consultations you take or not, but to forward all what they have legislated and all. And I tell you something, if here we are not appreciating the special status, go and see the others in the 8 region who are now clamoring for their own House of Chiefs.
Professor, later we'll get
into... You wanted to know what is special. Let me tell you.
Go ahead, Prof. Go ahead.
An innovation of all the innovations in governance in our African region. We now have independent institution that will listen to everyone. If the rights of a citizen in the Northwest region, whatever that is, if they felt that their rights were trampled upon or disrespected, and they don't want to go to the courts, they go to the public independent conciliator. Whether these rights are trampled by an individual, by government, by local government, by regional government, or by national government, you table it to the public independent conciliator. My friend, our democracy is deepening. It is not perfect. People wanted more, but in some areas they've gotten more than they wanted. I can even tell you when I look at the dispensation way back then when I was a young man, this is a much better improvement. Those who went to the House of Chiefs can tell you. Some of them even saw that it was an empty shell, and they left and went to other areas, like the House of Assembly and so on and so forth. So it is important that we tell the truth and we free ourselves. Isn't it said that the truth will free you? I hear it being said, huh? I believe it too.
So, Prof.
Yes, sir.
From all what you have said now, it can be deduced that there is, or the special status is pregnant with a lot of good things for the two regions. But there are still some of the people from these two regions who think that the special status is nothing but an empty container, is going to be piloted from Yaoundé, so nothing is going to change. And they highlight some points like, for example, your installation, the installation of the regional officials was done by the governors, appointed officials installing elected officials, and there are questions like who is going to lord over who is going to answer to who. And those who hold this school of thought, or those who are raising those questions, are saying that the regional officials will not be answerable to the people, but they will be answerable to Yaoundé.
Well, I know that a lot of people are gifted with hanging in the air, asking questions that have no answers. The egg or the chicken, which one comes first? You can spend your life doing that. You will achieve nothing. Tell me now, who ran the election? Wasn't it a nominated person? The first as of right session, who called it? Wasn't it a nominated person? Who would have called it? None of us who were elected had the capacity. You see, let us be practical people. We all came for an election. We were elected. The legal documents and all that was in the election is there in the law. Why do you always want to be against the law? Now, but let us be very practical. We are Africans, right? Especially back to the Northwest. When the phone disappears, who puts the phone on seat? Is it the phone that puts himself on seat? Isn't it the Ngomba people? So are you telling me that when the Ngomba people put the phone on seat, because the Ngomba people now become the phone? Eh, Papa? Why are we always ridiculing ourselves? Okay. If you don't understand that one, because you a city man and you don't know the village.
No, of course I do.
Well, if you do, you would not be asking me a question and making me look like I come from a people who are not thinking. Don't do that. Those people you are talking about, they are a minority. My people, I trust them. They know. When the president comes to swear, take an oath of office in parliament, is he swearing to himself? Isn't it the president of the lower house that swears him? Does that mean that the president of the lower house is lording over the president of the country? Come on. Let's stop fooling around with ourselves. Let's get to work.
What about the idea that the governors, the DOs, the SDOs should have disappeared and
they will eventually.
Or the regions be managed by completely elected officials?
How does that happen? It's like you get up in the morning, you are a student, The next day you are a doctor and you are now a perfect doctor. That happens where? Everything. Do you know the life cycle? All of us, I hope, we come from our mothers. When our mothers were babies, could they begotten us? So everything has a life cycle. Here is a newborn. Born by whom? Born by a nominated government, elected government. Okay. That government, like a baby who has just been born, needs breast milk, needs to be nurtured. As that child grows, when he gets into adolescence and young adulthood, even the mother will start saying, go you. That is what that will happen with regions. If you read the National Strategic Development Program for the decade 2020 to 2030, you will see that there is a gradual move to devolution. Of course, it's a change. It's even I would say, a watershed moment in our lives. It's a turning point. But we must be convinced ourselves that that is what we want. You cannot say we want to have our inputs into education, do our development. Then when they do it, you say, no, but it should have been done once and for all. Are you certain we have the wherewithal?
But Prof, the decentralization we are talking about today,
yes,
effective decentralization,
yes,
is something that has been in the Constitution.
Yes, now you understand why we've had difficulties.
It's been there for several decades, and it's only now that it's been implemented to a certain
gradual
extent,
process.
To a certain extent.
Let me correct you. Stop the misinformation.
No, I'm saying that the process has been going on.
Well,
but
let me then help you.
The effective implementation is coming only now.
Let me help you without your effectivity. The Constitution was done in 1996, right? The law on decentralization was done in 2004 with the setting up of the decentralization board. After that, the councils that came into being, and I think there are 360 of them, had activities devolved to them. Albeit the resources were not coming as the people wanted. But you can also agree that the resources are coming more and more. I can tell you, just this last week, I saw the resolve of the state. They have a pegging percentage for revenue from councils and the region. Signed, I think, a few days ago by the Minister of Decentralization and Local Government. I was also happy that the Ministry of the Public Service has devolved signatures to delegates. And if you see the law, eventually the delegates will be working with the region. So, sir, I want to plead with my people. If you take cocoyam and you don't cook it well, you eat it, it will scratch you terribly. You might even fall sick. Let us go like mature, reasoned people. We resolve, of course, but in order. The people who tell you that they've elected people, everything should be dropped, let them do it, those are anarchists. My people are not anarchists. I believe in the people of the Northwest. If they are not, how can you imagine that a woman gives birth today and abandons the child? That child will live? Of course not. So please, give the region a chance. I can assure you that we are listening to everybody. Everybody, I mean everybody. If you can't come to us, write, telephone. We will put all these structures in place. For now, we are using our personal phones and all of that. But that is precisely the point. You have to have timelines. You have to organize. It will be done, sir.
But there are also worries about how long it will take. It may take as many decades as it took for us to get to where we are today, and it may also take bloodshed for another major national dialogue to come up.
I'm hoping that
the implementation.
I'm hoping that you have had enough bloodshed, sir. I hope. It's been too much. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, I'm just an ordinary human. I'm not God. What you say is taking too much or too little. I don't know what that means. But if you are an organized society, you have timelines. You make programs. And that is why we are spending our time doing a situation analysis of the region, working with people who have expertise, like the Ministry of Economy and Plan, and their partners like UNDP, who are in the community getting data, necessary information that will help us take the right decisions. That is how you will avoid chaos. Going too fast without knowing where you're going may lead to what you said. Not going at all may also. We need to take the proper, planned and reasoned approach so that we have targets. We have only a 5-year mandate. So we will say by year 3, this is what should be done. Because this first year is a year of we're working day and night. The most important thing is what you are doing. Coming out with the thoughts, whether they are the thoughts of one man or many, or it doesn't matter. We will take those thoughts, we will give answers. If we don't have the answers, we give to those who have. There are all kinds of specialists in the region. Right. And some who love the region, who are outside. So we have an open hand policy.
Now, about the functioning of the institutions, the regional assembly, and of course the House of Chiefs, there are issues concerning one lording over the other.
Who is lording over who?
The House of Chiefs, for example. Is there a clear-cut line between
my
the functioning
brother,
of the
go
two?
and read the law. The Vice President of the Assembly.
I have read, Mr. President, but I'm asking this question so that you should explain to those who are expressing those worries.
Good. Then why? Okay, it's not you. It's someone. Okay, good. Let me tell whoever that is. His Majesty from Yakum, Shimtang, is Vice President of the Regional Assembly, but President of the House of Chiefs. The Regional Assembly meets only at its inception as one body and at its closing. During our session, the House of Chiefs meets separately with their president, their secretaries, and their 2 committees. The House of Divisional Representatives meets separately with its president and its secretaries, and so. So why are people imagining things when they are clear there? So I don't think that you people should be worrying. You are creating stress and high blood for no reason. We intend to follow the law. The law says there are 2 chambers, House of Chiefs, divisional representatives. The law says you meet separately, and it gives the attribution of each. I just told you it's different from the former House of Chiefs. So people who don't want to see, what are we going to do? We'll keep talking to them, hoping that they will see.
Mr. President, who has the final decision?
On what?
On what is supposed to be done and how in the regions?
It depends on which area.
No, leaving out national security, for example, which is managed by the central administration, and maybe higher education. I think so.
Certain areas have not been devolved. Most of the sovereignty issues are not with the region.
Diplomacy, foreign affairs, and all of that.
Exactly. But
about the development
of the
local communities.
You don't believe it? I just came from a meeting in Yaoundé where the government signed with a bilateral partner, Japan. And they gave means. The president of the region of the Southwest, because it was earmarked to FACO, and well, they didn't tell me, but someone said to me, well, FACO seems to be not as hot, so let's start there and see. If it goes on, then, and that's what the reconstruction will do. If our people wake up.
So FACO has been identified as one of the blue zones where the reconstruction process can start in some of the areas.
You called it that. You called it that. Evidently, that's where they are starting. You see, and you know what they'll be doing there? They'll be repairing water points that were destroyed, repairing health centers and stuff like that. Let us wake up. Okay, maybe people want, you woke up this morning, you wanted 50,000 francs, so, but you come and with all your efforts, you get 30. What do? You say, no, I wanted 50, 30, take them, you are no want them. Is that, would you think that man is normal? Huh? So, please, you know, us in the village, we think that, you know, village people, they are practical. They manage with what they have. So let those that are pulling us into the clouds know that gravity, the gravitas, will bring us back to reality. And I am pleading that we should not have a stillbirth. There are people who want a stillbirth. It will not happen.
What do you mean by that, Prof?
Yes, because people say, oh no, it will not happen. They will block the government. A government cannot spend so much time. Do you know what it is to write a law? For me, it's so difficult because I'm not a lawyer. And when they write it, they have to cross-check it. They go through all kinds of procedures. And some people say, oh, they should have just done it once and for all. There's no such thing. Come on. It's like you go to school, and after one day, you should be in university. Why is he still just in kindergarten? Anyhow, being a modest person that I am, I think that time will tell. Let us try to take everyone, even those that don't seem to understand. We explain to them. Those that are hurt, let's show them love, compassion, and empathy.
All right, Prof, we are going to take some interviews now, and when we come back, we'll talk about what is being done and what will be done by the regional executives.
were sleeping in the night. We got shooting. After we discovered fire, we wanted to come out. After they locked me in the door, even me, I come out through window. My small brother come out through window. My mother called kitchen in the house. They shoot me with gun, and my sister and saw from my brother and another sister with a baby in the hand, baby which is only 2 weeks. They shoot with a gun and burn with fire. My brother, they are already now outside. I didn't know where they are now. So I'm talking now with tears because I lost up to 9.
He also decided to assist the bereaved family with money to rebuild their houses and to compensate the crops and the animals that were killed from the census that were carried out by the commission led by the SD of Donald Mantu. He also asked me to tell to the family member that yes, we are commemorating the victims today, but maybe later on the family will still organize the funerals. The future of our nation is bright, provided we rely on our government, we rely on our head of state. We become from the grassroots to the highest level peace builder, peacekeeper.
I will come out, go for site, for market, for go grade my auntie. As from back 12 quarter.
On that day, I left the house to greet my aunt at Mbakpu quarter. Just when I left her house, I met soldiers around the next compound who called me, saying that I was Amber. I told them that I am not Amber, but they didn't listen to me and started beating me from there right up to the council building.
They just start beating me from Mbakpu right up to council. Yes, the medicine where we get them. It will be traditional medicine where we be at the treat cough.
The traditional medicine I had on me was that which I used to treat cough and stomach bite. That's why I agreed to taste when they asked me to do so.
Then they will ask me whether if he test the medicine. Me, I agree, I test them all.
The one to treat cough was mine because I had cough, and that to treat stomach bite was meant to treat another patient. I inherited the traditional medicine from my late father, and I have been using it to help people.
The two ID, say one will be my own ID, then the other one will be my late papa.
Concerning the national identity cards, one was mine and another belonged to my late father. I went out to establish his death certificate.
No, that very spot them where they beat me at the ear pens. Even like my chest at the ear pens from inside, and my head at the ear pens from inside.
I am still feeling pains inside my chest and within my head. This is all the drugs they gave me in the hospital in Kambe. Look at my body. I feel pains.
Those two companies, Adax Petroleum Company and Pelenco, every day I'm pleading with them, writing a letter, asking them their assistance. Since I took over, none of them respond. So I'm calling on government to draw their attention to follow contribute for the development in Idabato.
Thank you for staying with us. We are still with our guest, Professor FRU ANGWAFOR, President of the Northwest Regional Assembly. Mr. President, what have you done so far as the implementation of the new decentralization code is concerned within the framework of the special status for the Northwest and Southwest regions, and for the Northwest region in particular, where you are leading the people?
I think that the first thing, the most important thing, is going through all means to bring peace. That is why, even before we were elected on the 22nd of December, I mean as president, we had created a forum for all elected councillors. We had begun work talking about our divisions, what would be our, so that it is just natural that after the 22nd, we now had the first program, which was a situation analysis. We know the region is in crisis, but how deep is the crisis? Which area is more affected than the other? And why? That's what we are digging out. And that is why I'm very happy you are here. You notice, in spite of the difficulties, you wanted to come to Yaoundé. I was in Bamenda. You wanted to go to Bamenda. I was back in Yaoundé. And you came. I congratulate you. Because in our vision, there are three things when you talk of development. The first is what? People. People. The second is finance. And the third is infrastructure. So if you jump and you are doing infrastructure, you know what happened. You cannot do it. You start the road and they come and burn the caterpillars and destroy it. Would you do the road? But if you look at those people who are complaining, who are crying, you stand a chance that they will understand that that road is good for them.
You and your collaborators,
yes.
What have you been doing as far as this component of development is concerned?
Yes.
The people.
What we have done is we've set up, you know that the House of Chiefs has two committees. The Divisional Representative Chamber has 5 committees. And the committees are shared according to the attributions of devolution. Economic development, infrastructure, plan, and so that's one committee that is working closely with the Commissioner for Economic Development. There's a committee on education, there's another committee on health, and those two committees are working with their respective commissioners, but not doing the same thing. I had written out a vision statement, vision, strategy, and from that we have a charter. And our charter and slogan says what? Community citizen participation. You na me na you, we be we. That is regional solidarity. No one will be left behind. Not because he's from a village that doesn't have electricity. Not because he is poor. So it is in that spirit that we will construct our development plan.
What's the response that you're receiving from the people, the feedback you're receiving from the people?
Well, you know, when you are working, you want to stay laser focused and strong. There are those who want to derail you. There are those who support you. But the essence is you have a vision, you make your plan, and you do your work. In 5 years, we will know But I would say that I expect a lot of resistance. You know, I'm not at it. It's not my first go. You know, I've worked in this country for, oh God, how many years now? 37 years. And I've had many challenges. Each time you have a new idea, a creative or innovative thing, the normal thing is people should resist it. Because they are living in the comfort of the known.
People don't want to come out of their comfort zones.
Exactly. So don't be surprised. I'm not surprised that they don't like some of the things we are saying. But you know,
is it not because of the pains and the trouble they have been through?
Of
and
course.
What they are experiencing even now?
Of course. We are a battered people. And some of the battering is self-inflicted. So you have a problem with me. And then you go catch X and beat up. Does that solve your problem? Why the self-battering and self-flagellation? That's why I have said, one more death, one more pain is one too many. I reckon one of the first actions in our peace-building domain will be having a network of sociologists and anthropologists like the Professor Nquis and others, who will talk to us about our origins and our identity. Some of us in the biological domain will talk about what makes us one. What are our similarities? We seem to see more of our differences, and we forget our God-given similarities, those things that unite us. Some, like the learned Professor Chumbo, will talk to you about language and its role in development. And I'm just talking of English and French, which you seem to marvel at so much. Even Pidgin, why not? And our maternal languages. That's the beauty. The Northwest has, it's full of, it's like a warehouse with expertise coming from everywhere, out of the woods. It just needs a formula to put these people together, to put them in a little psychological comfort.
When you look at the level of resistance today, as far as your work is concerned, are you convinced that in the nearest future there will be not necessarily a total acceptance, but acceptance by a great majority of the people?
I believe in the people of the Northwest. I think that there are some people who, it's normal, every society has all, the good, the bad, the ugly. So don't be surprised. But I believe that the vast majority of the people, because they are an intelligent people, they have proven their worth. Look, my friend, do you know that we have an Under-Secretary of the UN from the Northwest? And for that matter, a woman? Wonderful. What are you talking about? They're all over the place. We just need to give them space. Give them the comfort of welcome. And you'll be amazed. Even those here. I've had occasion to meet younger people. Oh, my friend, my honorable secretary in the house, I met him not long ago, but full of such zeal, ready to give. No, let's not destroy ourselves. Let us shine. Let all the talents and the beauty of the Northwest come back. We intend therefore, to have sociologists, linguists, psychologists, all come on board, each one where they can. And we will have decentralized systems so that we can again dream of exploiting what people think is dirt, becomes manure. We produce food, we transform it. Oh my God. Do you think somebody will come and stop you from doing that? Those people who want to sell you, you know, the sky and the moon, they are distracting you. You know, when we were little kids, things we used to eat from a common dish. The smart ones used to get another one and say, look at the bird up there. While you're looking at the bird, by the time you come, the food is gone. There are some people who are doing that to my people. Be careful. Don't follow those guys. They will have you looking in the skies and looking at the birds, and when you come back, your goodies are gone.
Now, about the financial component of the developmental efforts you're going to be piloting in the Northwest, just like your peers in the other regions of the country. Of course, all these laudable things you're highlighting may not come to reality without financial means, without adequate financial means to permit you to move from one place to the other, to do one thing or the other, to implement this or that. So about the finances, how are you going to be working in that domain to be able to have the things, the money you need in your hands?
I've been working just like you did. Did I pay you to come? Did you pay me to come? What is driving us? Commitment. That is why I told you, if you want development, the first thing is people. Do you know that the Northwest, before the crisis, that Bamenda was putting in terms of revenue, they were the third in the country? Did you know that?
That's before the crisis came, yes, with its impact on the, yes, economy. And
did you know that? With the crisis now, they are the last. What has happened? Simple deduction. People have moved away. Those that are living in fear. They can't do any activity. So, money is only secondary to the mindset and the capabilities of the people. Did you come here because you have a lot of money?
Much of the money that you need to carry on those,
yes,
with your duties there will certainly come from Yaoundé, certainly come from the central administration.
No, sir.
Transfer of money and competence.
That is the old song. That is the old song. No get me anything. Hey, Yaoundé. You can't say you don't want Yaoundé and then go back cry Yaoundé. There's something. My people,
in other words,
have shown that
there will be generation of, yes, income within the region.
My people have shown that they can self-determine. And you don't have to leave your village or your father's house to assert your manhood. Indeed, in the village, how did it happen? The bigger family will allot you a plot in the clan's area, right? And we grow with an interdependency. If you go back to the village and the African systems, you will never fail. The problem is these people who have read too much book and they're talking of things that are hanging in the air. Let me tell you, modern financial mobilization is across the board. Starting from local mobilization. Look at the Northwest that I know. Do you know in 1971 there was a Peace Corps called Chet who came and went and started the credit union business in Ginicom. Are you from Ginicom? The people in Ginicom will know.
Credit union, which is
The credit union that is all over Cameroon today started in Njineko, then grew in Bamenda like wildfire. The same thing with cooperatives. When you talk of community development and community engagement, the Northwest is full of experience. The associations, when we talk about citizen participation and the collective interest, and I did not go to Sorbonne or Harvard or something to go and get a vision. I took it from the region. What I'm telling you. Oh, there are so many of them. Late Shang, Late Ndonyi. These are people who gave us all kinds of tricks of the trade. As a young man, when I came back here, Pa Shang of blessed memory, of the community development and thing, he gathered us, and as a group we bought lands somewhere. So we must go back to our pristine, original things that have served our people for centuries, sir. It is true, most of you talk of our history as if we started in 1884 or 1850 thereof. But we were here before then. Sir, that is why we have to look at our education. If you don't know yourself, you don't know what you're doing, do you think you will move? You will spend your time killing yourself.
You'll be turning around on the same spot.
If you don't kill yourself, you may not be there to turn around.
Right. Now, the infrastructure component.
Oh, yes.
What are you looking up to?
Let me tell you.
What's your vision in that area?
We didn't finish about finance. The big part is self-resilience. We look for local schemes of having trusts, credit, loans, bonds, and all of that. We also have microfinance and banks, local banks, that we have to talk with them. There are other things, there are many. Then we have, of course, the national government. They'll give what they have. But we also have the international community. How about all these origins of the Northwest who are shining all over the world? They are taking their money, Germany, US, everywhere, and taking their money and putting in the stock market in New York.
The President of the Republic,
how about developing our own stock market here?
The young people on the 10th said that when you go out there, come back and invest at home. But there are issues of dual nationality, issues of difficult environmental.
That dual nationality is not in the purview of the region. But the region doesn't see anything wrong with that. If it will create an enabling environment for our people to invest in their home. Look, my friend, you know I always go back to the village. It is not an error that when a child is born, no matter where, grandma takes the navel and goes and buries near a plantain or something. Do you do that? You don't know the character, the philosophy, and the psychology of planting the navel on that plantain. When that plantain matures, bears fruit, and is ready, they call the family and they have a feast. These are symbols of you belonging. Do you know that there is African psychology?
In other words, to say that that's your airport. No matter where you fly and go to, you have to come back to your source.
And do you know, we need to think otherwise. The state has domiciled even civil servants. Do you know, if you are a civil servant, doesn't matter where you die, the state has an obligation to come and bury you in your place. All of this comes from the old African ethos, character, and philosophy of belonging. These are some of the things that we hope the older ones will get back to the good days when I was a young boy, around the fireside with some nice roasted plantain and some oil, and Pa has some warm palm wine and is dishing out stories and all to the young ones. That, my friend, is good living. But of course, we need the gadgets of modern life. So, with local finance mobilization, national finance mobilization, mobilization from the diaspora and international bodies, why do you think we should not develop? But you will not have that if you do not have a mature, bankable development plan. That is why the first thing we are doing is working on getting a good situation analysis, so I can now answer the question, what are the infrastructures that you need? If we will move to the next step of development, we are going to have to address the issue of energy, power. And we are a lucky people. Instead of going to kill ourselves, let us see how we can negotiate. Indeed, I know that the African Development Bank and some concerns have studied the Mention Fall issue. But Mention Fall is not alone. You have Kasinala also. And if the worst came to the worst, the Abbey Falls, right there, about 30 kilometers from the center of Bamenda. So, rather than beat ourselves to attrition, of course, everything is on board. But we need expertise. Just like for the vaccines, we need expertise. And it's not just one expertise. For this, you need energy. If you don't have energy, you can have all the didactic or theoretical intelligence, you won't do a thing.
Another issue has to do with roads.
Water. Yes. Water. Roads. I must tell you, to give you hope, the second part of the ring road is already earmarked financially. So please tell my people along that ring road, let the companies come and do their work.
The head of state said he was going to supervise that project himself, but several years have elapsed and the people are still looking up to that road.
You know something?
They are still expecting it.
You know something? Did you read my my installation address? I did. What did I say about the past? Embrace the past and stop fighting it. You want to go fight the head of state because he said so and you are the ones who did literature. Me, I don't. I'm only a simple scientist. People tell me they are figures of speech, they are delegated powers and all of that. But notwithstanding that, what is the purpose of that discussion now? If it is not to paralyze my people, let them feel bad and then not move forward. I tell you something. If each one will have his personal commitment to do just a little bit You won't need people from anywhere. But if we are going to paralyze ourselves in a negative mindset, you know how many people, I went to school, they say, oh, no, your own good, your papa pay your fees. I don't have, that is why I fail. The one who failed went and did farm. Let me tell you something. Education is the key. And it is more than just sitting in school. The most important part of education is driving a positive mindset so that the person comes out with, one, he is passionate with reading. Because education doesn't stop anywhere. It stops when you are dead. But if you are a passionate reader, you will forever be wonderful. How many of us read? How many of our children read? You must be passionate with producing something. But what do we have? What obtains? We even go against our laws that prohibit public disorder through begging. That's not the Africa I know.
Street children are everywhere. In Yaoundé, in Douala.
Do you know the Africa that I know? The child belonged to the village. Indeed, it was inconceivable to call a child an orphan. Because the child belongs to the village. Oh, my friend, you will see. As we engage into the anthropology, African anthropology, and who begin to know who we are, we will realize that we had some character and ethos that will be the envy of humanity all over. But what I tell you is not so that you go and say I'm an expert in history, anthropology, and identity. It is for you to use it to produce. Because in all that African culture, we withstood all the troubles and the natural calamities through our commitment and hard work. And the Northwest, they are hard workers. All they need is to believe once more in themselves, not to be derailed into thinking that they are hated. Who hates you? In the village they say, if there's no devil in the house, there's no way a devil will come in. Isn't that so? So if we think there's hatred, let's love, and hatred will go away.
But many of the people are feeling hated by others, feeling marginalized, feeling deprived of just too many things.
Again, I say...
And that's what took Mancho BBC and some other people on the streets of Bamenda.
Yes.
Which became known as the Coffin Revolution.
And how has that helped us? I have told you, stop fighting the past, invent the present, and move on. Mancho BBC, incidentally, is telling people to go to school. Isn't it true?
He is one of the people campaigning for.
So it means that he too is leaving the past behind. Let him continue. Let him get all the others to see the light. There's no problem. I am not here to fight the past. There's nothing I can do about it. The past is gone, sir. But we can, from today, build and invent for tomorrow. You said something about marginalization. Do you think anyone is saved from marginalization? You have to be strong. If you don't let yourself marginalize, nobody will marginalize you. And I know what I'm talking about. Some of you have just been running around here and saying marginalization. Go to countries where your mere skin color, you are good enough to be in jail. You are screaming here. I think you should go and see what it is. Some of the problems these people are having, giving us, is because they no longer have anywhere. There they don't feel comfortable. Here they don't feel comfortable. Nowhere. So I tell them, come home, be strong. We'll show you ways and things that will stop you from feeling marginalized.
Now, earlier you indicated that all of what we've been talking about will only be possible if there is peace, if there is an enabling environment.
Yes.
Now, that seems not to be coming too soon. Atrocities have continued.
I don't know
despite
how soon.
all the efforts that government has been putting in, with the military on the ground, the major national dialogue, the implementation of
Do
the
you have any statistics?
And all of that.
No.
Deaths are still being recorded. Recently were chiefs, three chiefs of the
I reckon that listen, I reckon that it's still continuing. But what is important is trends. That's why you need statistics. We are in the month of, what is this now? February. If you were to tell me that in 2015, here was the number of deaths between January and February. In 2016, this. 2017, this. 2018, this one. And then we plot a graph to see the trends. You seem to live in a world of perfection.
In your own analysis,
in my analysis,
is there some sort of a move, thoughts, in my favorable climate
in my analysis,
for the implementation of what you're saying?
In my analysis, there is an incredible positive move. I just saw the member of the lower house of parliament in the Mbiame constituency go and get received by the whole village and with young people. Some of them whom the day before would have done away with her. I'm talking of something that just happened 2 days ago. Eh? You don't know about that? I do. And I can give you many more examples. One of the members of the Regional Assembly, Honorable Representative Chechuma Banla, has done a wonderful job in Babisi. When not one child was going to school, nobody. What did he do? He took the bull by the horn, went there, organized it up, and the children are going to school. Why are we... Look, let's not judge man in the terms of eternity or of God, that it is either all or none. I don't know of a society that has this perfection that people want to always construct. Certainly we need peace, more peace, but my little compass is moving in that direction.
And when you see traditional rulers,
yes,
and who are still being respected in the northwest and in the southwest regions more than elsewhere in this country, traditional rulers becoming targets,
yes,
not only abducted, not only killed in secret, but now taken to the village square in Esota, the Libialem division, and killed in front of the subjects.
That is an abomination. Do you know why that can happen? That's why I say we need the sociologists and the psychologists badly, because people have lost themselves. To do that, it means first, you are almost not human anymore. You don't identify first with man. Worse, you don't identify with your custodian of your heritage, of your customs. Of that, I told you of the importance of planting the navel on the plantain. That is, in part, the growth and the development of our community spirit and community interest. How can you, therefore, do away with the symbols of community union and heritage? Of course, it is in part because the education has estranged the youth from their roots. That land needs to be cleansed.
Some of those young people have lots of stories to tell.
Of course,
frustration.
I'm sure.
Some of them saw their parents killed and burnt in the house, their brothers, and they had to take.
And so
they had to take that road down.
So you tell them that it is not because somebody did you harm that you will do harm.
Because then, evil with evil.
Then you will. What will you do? You will perpetuate harm. Does harm know a particular person and not another? That is why I say we cannot engage in a mindset of collective suicide.
Two wrongs do not make it right.
And to do that, we must embrace the past, but forgive, show love, compassion, and empathy. They sound like trite words or empty talk. But in the profoundness of our lives, and some of us claim to be Christians in the Judeo-Christian ethic, I begin to wonder, how can you desecrate traditional authority, your identity, desecrate spiritual authority? And of course, no wonder we've even lost national and administrative authority. We must come back to the fold, gather ourselves and talk about these things honestly. No blames. The game of blame and name is gone. Get into the house. Let's do traditionally, spiritually, religiously, whatever it takes. Why not all? Because we are a multicultural, multifaceted people.
Mr. President, after that incident, there was another tragic incident similar to that, but it didn't lead to the death of anybody. But there was a young man in Du who was almost tortured to death by military, gendarmerie, and police officers. When you saw that incident happening in your area of command?
Yes, all I have to say is very simple. You know, I didn't like what I saw. But I am happy of the reaction of the population and the people. Indignation. I am happy with the reaction of the district officer who called to order the security service. And I'm happy with the military command who have booked those that were in this unfortunate incident. But then, my interrogation is simple. Before 2016, how many of those cases were we having in the Northwest? How many military people were either beating with the thing or killing people in Garbu? None. You remember I told you something? You are not marginalized if you don't let people marginalize you. Who called for the military? So, remember what I said? We will not fight the past, but we must reckon with it.
Mr. President, what will you tell those who think that Professor FRU ANGWAFOR is a square peg in a square hole, a God-fearing man, a man with determination to do things, to right the wrongs, but his hands seems to be tied by party discipline?
Oh, I have not been told by the party that I should stop work. Do you know, on the contrary, it's the party that proposed me. Because there were many people, contrary to what you think, it was tougher than tough. And I imagine the party knew why. I'm pretty sure that the party proposed me because the party knew that I would work with all of those that wanted to be here. Because it's not about me. You na me na you, we be. So whether I am a square peg or a square hole or square, that's not the issue. The issue here is, can we come back to our legendary humanity? Can we stop brutalizing and killing one another? We are not many. 2-point-something million people. It's a very small group. And then we are in a war of attrition. And I told you, when you are convinced of something, you don't worry about what the other has done. Well, why are we sitting here saying, oh, no, you do, oh, my papa no pay my fee, my mommy no give me chop. So it's the same thing. If we want this thing finished, in every little family, village, we sit down, we beckon our Maker, God, we are sorry for our crimes. Forgive us. We want to be loving, compassionate, with empathy. No more death. You'll be amazed. It will release the energy of development. It will bring us what that, I know that. And it's not me. It's all of us. It's a team. So let's say that there is a square team in a square peg in the region.
Prof, in some few seconds, the President of the Republic has said on several occasions, civilians carrying guns, drop your guns and come out of the bushes. Some are still there. I want you to send a message to them in some few words.
Well, indeed, I have told them before. I'm begging them. Why are they suffering themselves? Why are they doing this to themselves and to their parents and their friends? You know, this life is funny. I often see people say, oh, this one a Pekin, this one no a Pekin. When you are a doctor, are you treating your mother and your father? If you have a luck, you might even help them. But you are treating the community. If you are a bricklayer and you build a house only for your mother and father, how many houses will you build? You are a cook. You cook only for you and yours. Will you make much of a living? We have taken the wrong approach to mending our lives. It's not late. Let's bring back humanity into our homes, in our communities, and with that, we'll be able to make our community projects, raise our community resources, get ours in the diaspora and friends to support us so that the new Northwest will be a strong part of the new Cameroon.
Professor FRU ANGWAFOR III, President of the Northwest Regional Assembly, medical expert by profession, former Director General of the Yaoundé Gyneco Obstetric and Pediatric Hospital. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today. Goodbye.